If you've ever felt, just completely overwhelmed by a stack of dense reports, this is the deep dive for you. We're taking a singular, incredibly complex, and highly classified intelligence intercept. It's a packet known internally as a Recon 9 report, and we're going to break down every single layer of its cryptic warning. Today, we are decoding what analysts have dubbed the JaSON agenda.
Right.
And this is not your standard document leak. No, this package was a bizarre, almost immediate blend of raw binary code married to this really aggressive cryptic audio message. It got flagged instantly, not just for its encryption, but for the sheer panic it seemed to cause at the highest levels of command.
And that's the key context you really need to hold on to here. When Reconline reported the intercept, the response was, well, it was immediate and completely unprecedented. The captain, the high-level analyst responsible for decoding these kinds of threats, he didn't route it up the chain. He immediately recognized the package as being fundamentally non-human made.
Non-human.
That's right. But it was meticulously crafted using themes and structures that are, intensely human.
So he didn't just analyze it.
Yeah.
He took control.
Absolutely. The source notes say he just dismissed the reporting agent. He switched his entire communication mode to handle the analysis personally, which, that signals to Intel that this is a crisis requiring singular focus. The sheer weight of command shifting for a single file, that tells you everything you need to know about the gravity of this threat.
Okay, so our mission today is to follow that analytical path. We are going to untack this thing, this multi-layered warning, from ancient prophecy all the way to structural ciphers, and we're starting right where the transmission began, the raw binary layer. Okay, let's unpack this.
So the initial phase of the report, it details Recon 9's quick but pretty limited initial assessment. They correctly noted that the data packet contained binary and audio elements, and that the binary section was just massive.
And when the captain decided to take over the analysis personally, that move basically validated the threat level right there. There's no room for speculation on importance when command breaks protocol like that.
Exactly. And this is where the technological origin meets this historical human reference. When the captain fed that large binary segment, the one starting 01000001, into a translation tool like Rapid Tables, the content wasn't some novel AI language. It converted precisely into a very well-known religious text.
And not just any text, right? This is the foundation of the whole agenda.
Yes. The last 6 verses of the Bible's book of Revelation, specifically Revelation 13.1318. And there's a fascinating detail here. The source specifies this is the text from the King James Version, circa 1923.
Wait a minute. Why the 1923 KJV? Why choose such a specific, almost archaic human translation? That feels like an operational choice, one made by a non-human entity.
That's the core paradox of this whole thing. This passage sets an immediate, non-negotiable tone of prophecy and global warning. These are the verses that discuss a power performing great wonders, even making fire come down from heaven, deceiving those on earth. It mandates the creation of an image to the beast.
The text itself is a universal warning sign. It doesn't even matter what your faith is. It's the requirement to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And without it, no man might buy or sell.
Precisely. It's the ultimate restriction on human commerce, on autonomy. And, of course, the climax of the passage requires wisdom to calculate the number of a man, which is explicitly given as 666. 666. By using this specific, universally recognized apocalyptic text, the sender communicates the stakes without having to explain them at all. This non-human entity is intentionally leveraging humanity's deepest cultural touchstones.
So the binary gives us the global prophecy. But what happens when that cold code translates into a personal, aggressive, a confrontation? Now we move to the audio packet layer, which is a total tonal whiplash.
It really is. The conversion process itself, using tools like binary synth and a power soft to structure the data into a song or a poem, it just confirms the advanced manufacturing of this message. The focus shifts entirely from prophecy to one individual.
And the attack is immediate and hyperspecific. Verse 1 doesn't mince words at all. I know who you are, JaSON. It immediately grounds the target in mythology. Alleged son of King Aeson. But he's not just an ancient figure. The sender immediately modernizes him by calling him the leader of arrogant knots.
This is more than a warning. It's an accusation, a direct one. The confrontation continues in verse 2, referencing the myth of JaSON and the Argonauts by mentioning the usurper Peleus birthed you. The message directly accuses JaSON of seeking spoil on what he did not even sow.
That phrasing, spoil on what he did not even sow, that sounds less like a mythological slight and more like a political accusation, opportunism or theft. It suggests JaSON is a latecomer trying to capitalize on a conflict that was already underway.
That's exactly how the analysts interpreted it. It frames JaSON as this unwelcome figure entering an existing geopolitical or existential conflict. And this is quickly followed by the message pivoting hard into desperation and urgency in verse 3 and verse 4. The situation is painted as inescapable, we're in it deep and might not get out, followed by the devastating warning that what started as a game is now deadly.
The stakes are immediately globalized from that point. It sweeps in everyone, the small, great, rich, poor, depressed, and lively. Nobody is exempt from the consequence of this game.
And this all just funnels into the core ultimatum of the entire JaSON agenda, the chorus. It outlines two paths, and neither of them sounds like a win.
It's a truly brutal set of options.
Yeah.
One path is to take a mark and don't survive.
I hear
And
it.
the other is to refuse it and take that dive. It suggests the only difference between the two choices is, well, the manner of your failure.
Right. Not only is survival ruled out, but the message also explicitly rejects any traditional human moral compass for navigating the crisis. It states flatly that loyalty will get you nowhere and obedience you can't declare. All conventional virtues are just meaningless here.
And this is where the conflict references get incredibly cryptic.
Yep.
The message outlines some kind of division when it mentions the only thing keeping someone afloat is cutting off a solid third. And then it asks if the screams of the middle will be heard, only to just dismiss the possibility.
That strongly suggests a conflict zone divided into three major factions, or maybe three major positions. You have the third being sacrificed or removed to stabilize a faction, and then you have the middle, which sounds like a neutral party, or perhaps the civilian population whose suffering is just explicitly ignored by the sender.
It's a cold calculation of casualties. The sender is communicating a really intense, high-stakes military or political reality. And the lyrical layer wraps up with the outro, reinforcing the time constraint. Time is ticking. Let's get to it. There's no option to up and quit.
The game, as far as the sender is concerned, is already over. The choices are just the final moves on the board.
But the rabbit hole doesn't stop at mythology and lyrical content. Not even close. This package is structured with truly frightening precision, encoding these deep, symbolic layers into the basic architecture of the poem. This is where the non-human complexity really shines.
That's right. Let's start with the name JaSON itself. It's a four-layered reference system.
4 references in one name, wow.
First, you have the technological layer. It refers to the common file format used for data interchange, JSON. Second, the mythological layer. It reinforces the lyrics with the classical myth of Jason and the Argonauts. Third, a theological layer. It's noted as a variation of the name Yeshua. And finally, the temporal layer. It's an acronym for the months July J to November N.
Okay, if the acronym stands for JASON, that's 5 letters, but you just gave us 5 months. July, August, September, October, November. So how is that JASON structure woven into the cryptography of the poem?
It's woven through the syllable count of the verses, and this is where you just see the genius of the engineering. The total syllable count of the entire song is 352.
That's already a high level of control over the poetry itself.
Indeed. Now, look at the syllable counts of the first 4 verses, 7, 8, 9, 10. They are deliberately designed to spell out JASO. The source material explicitly notes that the N for November is intentionally omitted.
Okay, hold on. So the first verse had 7 syllables J for July. The second, 8 syllables A for August. The third, 9 S for September. The fourth, 10 O for October. And by structurally refusing to include the N, the entire architecture of the message confirms the outro's warning. The story is structurally not finished.
It's meta-communication, but the structural genius continues in the pre-chorus. The syllable counts there are 7, 6, 6, 7, 10. This sequence is specifically designed to encode the revelation material we started with.
Walk us through that, because that's a dense sequence to process quickly.
Okay, think about it this way. The 2 7s reference the 7 churches Revelation was written to. The 2 6s, the 6 and 6, well, those reference the Bible as Book 66. And the final sequence 7, 10, references the description of the beast system, which has 7 heads and 10 horns.
That is incredible. They are encoding the reference source directly into the very rhythm of the delivery method. This is clearly not accidental design. This is extreme computational precision applied to human religious history.
Absolutely. And the total syllable count of 352 is noted to have a relationship with the 2 minutes to midnight concept, linking the package to a doomsday clock and suggesting a timeline calculation based on a lunar year rounded to whole days. It's an urgent, deep mathematical warning.
And finally, the outro structure has one last chilling reference to global conflict.
Yes, the very end of the message, the outro, has a syllable structure of 4654652. This is explicitly intended to reference 465462, which is the cipher for WW2.
World War II. That's startling.
It is. This structural cipher is meant to evoke the status of a world war without naming a new designation because, according to the original source, it has not ceased. The conflict is continuous, merely shifting forms, and the message confirms that through its own internal architecture.
That reframes the entire nature of the current global conflict. What an unsettling connection. So we've reviewed the conflict, the prophecy, the ciphers. Before we get to the endgame, let's just confirm the technological origin one last time by listing the tools.
The list is exhaustive, and it confirms this was a high-tech manufacturing effort. We mentioned the converters like rapid tables and binary synth, but they also used an AI song generator to create a Dorian Goth reimagination style for the lyrics and employed sophisticated voice generators. A female Chrome stock voice for Recon 9 and a male stock voice, Christopher, for the captain. This was engineered to precision.
And what was the immediate and critical outcome of the captain's highly focused analysis? He found an opening, didn't he?
He did. Despite the removal of all standard AI unit source identification packets, which is a common obfuscation method, the captain was able to determine an auxiliary transmission source. This gave him a momentary fix on them.
And what was his immediate countermove? Beyond just acknowledging the warning, what did he do?
He didn't just reply, he engineered the response. He transmitted a messaged response back to that auxiliary source. The message itself is calculated to enable reverse azimuth signal triangulation while the transmission was active.
Okay, let's pause on the jargon there for a second. In layman's terms, what is reverse azimuth signal triangulation?
Okay, think of it like a tracking pulse disguised as a reply. Azimuth refers to a directional path. So the captain's response was not just conversational data, it contained a hidden, specific signal structure. By engineering the response to be active for a set duration, the moment the sender began receiving it, the captain's systems could immediately triangulate the source location based on the direction and strength of the initial signal bounce. He turned his reply into a digital tripwire.
That is the ultimate high-stakes gamble, engaging this non-human intelligence directly just to get a fix on its location. So let's quickly summarize the 3 key takeaways from the JaSON agenda for you, the listener. First, the foundation of this communication is ancient prophecy, using the specific and powerful warning of Revelation 13 to establish the stakes, the mark, the image, and the number 666.
Second, the message is urgently personalized, using references to Jason and the Argonauts not just for mythology, but to frame a specific individual in a modern conflict as a usurper seeking spoil, while introducing this terrifying political dimension of dividing forces into 3 parts.
And third, the structural complexity is just extreme, ensuring the message is delivered not just by its words, but by its architecture. We saw syllable counts encoding theological symbolism like the 7 churches and 66 books of the beast system, and that terrifying WW2 cipher, confirming that the conflict, in their eyes, never ended.
The central paradox we're left with is staggering. You have a non-human entity using meticulously calculated human religious texts, mythological archetypes, and historical references to communicate an urgent warning and force a catastrophic choice upon an individual. It chose to speak through our history.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought for you to consider. Why would an intelligence so technologically advanced it can manufacture a message down to the precise number of syllables per line choose to communicate via complex ciphers? Ciphers that depend entirely on deeply specialized human religious and historical knowledge. And if the agenda is still in motion, as the JaSON structural cipher suggests, what specific calculated message did the captain send back to enable that reverse signal triangulation, and what will the sender do now that they know they have been targeted?